Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and as Brexiteers cheer the fact that terms have been agreed for us to join a trading bloc where we will be accepting rules decided in foreign countries and where foreign courts or arbitration panels at any rate will settle disputes, it's worth going over some of the key facts for and against our accession to the Pacific Trading Bloc, the CPTPP. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the first thing to say is that trade experts are positive about this move. It's not in isolation a bad move. That is because it does lower trade barriers a little bit to some countries. And they also think that it's good the government is formally accepting that it must accept international rules in order to trade. It's just really weird to see Brexiteers, especially hard Brexiteers, cheering it. Why did we leave the EU? Because they imposed rules on us. But the CPTPP imposed rules on us. Yes, but the EU imposed more rules. Well, okay, yes, but two things. First, the Brexit argument didn't ever touch on the number of rules, only that there were rules, and rules that were decided by Johnny Foreigner. You know, that's what they made the big deal about. Oh, rules should be made in Britain. For Britain. Only in Britain. You have to wonder how the argument would have gone if the European Parliament, when it was set up, was located in Birmingham rather than Brussels. Second, it could be argued that the CPTPP do actually impose more rules on us. They don't have more rules, and the more rules are less, they cover fewer things. Of course it is, because it's not an integrated market. But the UK either created or supported 98% of all EU rules before we left. We had no say in 100% of the CPTPP rules. So we decided 98% of EU rules, 0% of CPTPP rules. But anyway, commonplace Brexit hypocrisy aside, what else can be said? Well, Brexiteers are claiming that our membership of the CPTPP will prevent us rejoining the EU. There's some Burke in the Daily Telegraph that makes it impossible to rejoin the EU. No, actually, it makes it easier. Or it makes it more likely, shall we say. It makes it more likely. First of all, why do they think it will stop us rejoining? Well, you can't be a member of both the CPTPP and the EU. No. But you can start accession talks with the EU whilst being a member of the CPTPP. And then at the end of the accession process, and we join the EU, we just leave the CPTPP at the same time. It's no big deal. Easy. The other CPTPP members, do you know what? I hate that. I hate that set of initials. But the other members won't be that bothered because they've got good deals with the EU, which will transfer over to us when we rejoin. Not a problem. And that's not just me saying it, that's trade experts saying it, actual trade experts, not random Herberts writing in the Daily Telegraph. But why do I think it will make rejoining the EU easier rather than harder? Because this is my speculation, not from trade experts, but here's my logic. The argument for leaving the EU was because it meant having to adopt their rules on trade, say. Well, we now have to adopt CPTPP rules on trade. So a Brexit argument has been immediately undermined. In fact, there's actually a whole series of Brexit arguments been undermined. Kemi Badenoch, Brexiteer, Tory cabinet minister, has been saying in an interview, it's been 50 years since we joined a trade bloc. So straight away, she's linking it with the EU. She's basically saying it's very similar to the EU. Second thing she said, there's strength in numbers. In terms of the benefits, why should we join it? The strength in numbers is good, isn't it? So it's not good to be on our own, isolated. No, we should join with other countries in some sort of union. Should we? Should we really? Another argument is jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. Well, disputes can occur between CPTPP members as well. And there has to be some sort of decision made. And although arbitration is much messier, it's not as tidy as in the EU, it does involve a panel of adjudicators. And two of these adjudicators will, of necessity, have to be from outside the UK. So a majority of the panel that will decide in disputes will not be British if we're involved. And if the two sides disagree, CPTPP rules say that if the two sides cannot agree on who should be on that panel, then someone else appoints them. Again, foreign. So virtually all the arguments that they used as justification to leave the EU, especially leaving the single market and customs union, because remember, we could have left the EU without leaving the single market and customs union. All those arguments disappear with this membership of the CPTPP. All they've pretty much got left now is freedom of movement, because we don't get that with the Pacific bloc. Obviously, how would that make any sense? They're not going to come over on their water wings. So that's the only argument left. As soon as people have decided that freedom of movement's no big deal, then the argument's all gone. Also, when it comes to the will of the people, will of the people only voted for it, don't they? Were you also in a coma when we had the referendum to join the CPTPP? We're joining a trade bloc. Kemi Badenoch saying, linking it to the EU. Oh, it's like the EU, really, isn't it? Only we prefer it. Oh, right, okay. So, where are we gonna? We're going to adopt these trade rules decided by other countries. We're joining this trading bloc. When did the public have a vote on this? It was not in the Conservative Party manifesto, so there's no mandate there. We didn't have a referendum, so there's no mandate there. Where did this appear? Brexiteers can argue the difference all they like, and of course the CPTPP is a much looser arrangement with the EU. Still a trading bloc. Still a trading bloc, and they didn't ask the public if we wanted to join a trading bloc. So let's say a future UK government wanted us to join, say, EFTA. EFTA don't actually want to accept us, and I don't think it's in our interest to join either. But let us just imagine that the other EFTA members went, yeah, we're fine with the UK coming back, and, the UK wants to join. Let's just imagine. Are they going to be fine with that? Would it be all right for that future UK government to join EFTA without asking the public first? But anyway, I was saying why this makes it easier to rejoin the EU. So apart from most of the arguments used to take us out of the EU now being invalidated, they've only got freedom of movement left, that's it. The benefits to rejoining the EU are way higher than joining the CPTPP. See, here's the thing. As I said, trade experts have said joining this bloc is good because it's better than what we have now, which is nothing. But, we have a few free trade agreements, but free trade agreements are not free trade. But not that we've got free trade with the CPTPP either. But the public won't notice the difference. However, the public have noticed the difference in leaving the single market and customs union. They've noticed that. Because the government and the media have tried to disguise it. They've tried to blame it on COVID, any downsides on COVID or the war in Ukraine. And yet, support for rejoining the EU has kept rising. And there are people who work very, very hard to persuade the public of this. But let's be honest, we haven't got a massive national movement. I mean, it's national, but it's not massive yet. And yet the public have still started to think in increasing numbers we should rejoin the EU. And there's a much diminished number of people, and it's continuing to diminish, number of people who think that it was right that we left. In a few years' time, we're still going to be suffering the impacts of having left the EU. The benefits of CPTPP membership will not cover for them. So won't more of the public ask, well, if we can join a trade bloc that's spread all over the world and with the closest member like 2,500 miles away from us, why can't we join a trade bloc on our doorstep and concentrate it on our own continent? And if Brexiteers try to argue that, we'd have to give up the benefits of CPTPP membership, we can ask them, what benefits? Slightly lower tariffs when the EU already has very low tariff deals with them. Not sure that's going to wash. And let's go over the reasons why the public will continue to feel the effects of Brexit, but not the benefits of joining this new trading bloc. First, we don't have free trade with the CPTPP. Like I said, free trade agreements are not actually free trade. They're not even completely tariff-free trade, but that's basically the only trade barrier that sort of goes away. There are still plenty of other trade barriers between members, not the least of which is the bloody distance goods have to traverse. Some Brexiteers are aware of this. Not all of them are thick, and not all of them treat their followers as if they're thick. Some are aware of this, and they're trying to shift the attention to trading services. Oh, you trade services, though, because that's our bread and butter anyway. We're a service economy, fine. But trading services, though important to our economy, is not very visible to most of the public. The public notice when there's a hit to trading goods because they buy those goods. They don't really notice so much a hit to trading services. Also, we were trading in services around the world as EU members anyway. There's actually not usually that many barriers to trading services. We haven't broken many barriers down to that. Second, we've just lost our just-in-time supply chain with Europe. Cannot possibly replicate it with the CPTPP. You can't ring someone up in Chile or Malaysia and ask them to send you a consignment of something in a couple of days. This is what we've lost in the UK, and there's nowhere else to get it. And there are two types of consequence depending on what sort of business you're running. If it's components, like let's say you're manufacturing and you need components or materials, it means British businesses have to order more in advance because you can't get them in a couple of days, and you can't reliably get them in any time frame. So you've got to order them well in advance, which means you need to order more and less frequently because otherwise it's too costly and too unreliable. So that means it's more difficult to judge the exact amount you need. Instead of ordering things for a week with a couple of days notice where you can judge how much you're actually going to need, now you have to order 2 or 3 months worth. So you risk over ordering in order to make sure you can keep up production. Well, there's a cost there because you're ordering more stuff than you really need. It then means you need more storage space. So instead of getting in a week's worth of stock at a time, you may need 2 or 3 months worth. That means extra storage if you don't naturally have that. And if you do naturally have that where you're working, that means you had an inefficient system going on anyway. So in all likelihood, you're going to need to rent more premises to store the stuff. May not even be anywhere near your factory or warehouse. Might not even be in the same town. But even if it is, it's some distance away. That means you need to hire more staff to manage the stock at that warehouse. And you need to hire staff to transport it from the warehouse to where it's needed on the weekly basis. If it's food you're dealing with, there's really not a lot you can do at all. You can't order that, a load of that in advance, can you? If it's stuff that will go off quickly, if it's fresh food, so you have to have production impacted regularly. Nothing to be done about it. Nothing to be done. Unless, of course, you can relocate your business to Northern Ireland. But Northern Ireland isn't all that big. So there's only so many businesses can realistically do that, even if they have the investment funds. The main potential benefit of being in the CPTPP is the hope that maybe China or the US will join at some point. But that will also be of limited value because although they have genuinely huge markets, oh yeah, if they join, absolutely brilliant, it sounds. They're not only thousands of miles away, but very protectionist. The US were originally going to be part of this group and then it sort of had to change when Donald Trump said, no, we're not joining. Well, President Biden has just launched an epic protectionist scheme, the Inflation Reduction Act. So there's no suggestion that the US will join in a way that gives us any sort of decent market access that could possibly compensate for Brexit. It's not realistic. As for China, they're even more protectionist than the US. See, the USA, being good little capitalists, they at least pretend to believe in free markets. It's a lie, obviously. China don't even pretend. So we may never see the day when the CPTPP transcends into something that includes either the US or China in a way that really benefits us. And if it does, it'll be so far into the future that those continuing Brexit problems are likely to have the public hankering after EU membership much before it anyway. Joining the CPTPP, it's not a problem for rejoiners. I see no problem with it. Actually exposes much of the stupidity of Brexit. And it forces Brexiteers to have to abandon a load of their arguments. And just as with everything that Brexiteers will claim as a Brexit benefit, the public are not going to see any visible benefits of CPTPP membership anyway. You'll see it if you look through a magnifying glass as a little blip in trade data that no one looks at. Ask the public in a couple of years what they most enjoy about membership. You'll be met with blank faces. In fact, for a laugh, someone might need to remind me of this. For a laugh, maybe I'll give it a couple of years. Maybe I should take my camera and microphone out, go to a pro-Brexit area, not that hard, I don't live very far from them, and ask people on the street, what are you most enjoying about life in the CPTPP? I bet you they don't even know what I'm asking them. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.